Okay, today we're going to be joined by Mr. David Lee, founder of Gravity Golf, Gravity Sports Inc. How are you, Mr. Lee?
I'm fine, thank you, Ralph.
Okay, Mr. Lee, could you just start by telling us a little about yourself personally? Anything not golf related, family, hobbies, etc.
Well, I've been a golf professional since 1964. I'm married with two children, and all of my family are golfers. I'm kind of a golf pro slash research scientist. I've been doing swing research for 35 years, and my company's called Gravity Golf. We I played the tour for 4 years, and in the early and mid '70s until a hand injury drove me, out of playing, and I got into doing swing research full time, and I've been doing it ever since. Gravity golf is a term that I've given the modern golf swing, and it is typified by players who use very little effort in the swing. People like Freddie Couples or Ernie Els, people that move the golf ball with their body mass instead of their muscle. And when you watch somebody like Freddie move a golf ball, he doesn't hit the golf ball, he throws it. In his mind, at the top of the backswing, the ball is in the middle of the club face, and he just makes a counterfall, drops his arms, and the rotation of his body slings his arms and clubs through impact. It's like the ball is being slung from the club face.
Okay, so when and where, Mr. Lee, did you start playing golf? What was your introduction to golf?
Well, my introduction to golf was from my grandfather when I was 4 years old. He was a pathologist in Hot Springs, Arkansas. That's where I'm originally from, and my father was a good player, but my grandfather was a fanatical player. He wasn't a great player, but he was a great student of the game, and he got me interested in golf when I was very small, and I've been playing the game for 62 years, so it's been a long time.
I bet. And so you went on and had an amateur career and played the tour for a while. And what was your experience on tour like?
When I was playing the tour, I was an upper body player, hitting it with my muscle like Arnold Palmer, and I played like that for about 3 years, and with my tee shots looking for the first exit in the left rough, and it didn't. When I would watch Jack Nicklaus and Lee Trevino hit the golf ball, they put it on a totally different ball flight where the ball flew straight and fell like a feather to the ground, and my ball was always hooking, and moving hot into the fairway because I was powering it totally different. And I would ask them, how they hit the golf ball that way, and they just shrugged their shoulders and go, "That's just the way they hit it." I honestly thought they wouldn't tell me, but I found out later on that they couldn't tell me. They had just stumbled into the feeling of doing it and had been able to harness it and continue doing it. But when you hit the golf ball that way, there's actually a trick to it. There's a recipe doing it, and if you understand how it works, anybody can learn to do it. But if you attack it if you go to the top of your backswing and attack the downswing with your muscles in your shoulders and arms, you could stand there for 1,000 years hitting golf balls and never hit one golf ball like Freddie Couples, because that's not what he's doing.
Okay, so how did you figure it out by observation, trial and error? How did you go about your journey of discovering what it was that these two great ball strikers had in common, or what was it that made them such great ball strikers, and what had you struggling?
Actually, when I got off the tour for a while at the end of 1972, I was working in the fishing tackle industry in Nashville, Tennessee, and was going out to the Richland Country Club in the afternoon after I would get off work, and I was hitting balls. I had just finished making a tackle box full of spinner baits for Mickey Mantle, and I was talking to a doctor about baseball players, and I said to him, baseball players stride into the golf ball or into a baseball when they hit it. And I stepped up to a golf ball and I put my feet in motion like a baseball player trying to get a hit. And when I did that, it was the first time in 25 years that I hit a golf ball with my pounds instead of my muscles. And when I hit it like that, the ball was hit dead solidly and flew straight, just like it did with Jack and Trevino. And I did it again, and it happened again. See, Jack and Lee swing the golf club in a 2-1 timing where their weight goes to the right foot and back to the left foot by the time they finish the backswing. And this is the way most modern players are beginning to play. Now, a lot of these guys out there are still using a lot of power from the shoulders, but people like Freddie don't do that. They just have a pure swing on it. If you watch, uses maybe half the effort that somebody like Tiger uses to hit the ball about the same distance. So it's a very, very efficient golf swing and one that works completely without effort if you understand how the thing functions. Now, Freddie has a great feel for doing it, but he's never been able to verbalize to anybody else exactly what he does. In fact, the press has asked him 1,000 times how he hits the ball the way he does, and he says, guys, don't ask me. Not only do I not know how it works, I don't want to know how it works. I'm afraid if I started thinking about it, it would go away. So, he doesn't want to go out there and play golf swing. He just wants to play golf, and he does everything by feel. Well, we not only know how the thing works now, we know how to force feed it into other people so that they can learn it very, very quickly. It only takes us, when a person is doing some of the drills that I've developed, it only takes us about 90 days to get a beginner to professional level distance.
Wow, that's incredible. Now,
yeah, it really works in a hurry.
Right now, well, how did you come about developing your system of drills? Because they are unique.
Well, if you've seen my DVDs, you can see that the drills are unusual. And what I tried to do, what the drills are designed to do, and I guess over the last 30 years, I've developed maybe 120, at least 120 different drills. And most of those I've discarded now to where we only use, 3 or 4 drills and some variations off those drills. The objective of a drill is to use it like an MRI on your golf swing. The drills magnify the improprieties of using muscle in the golf swing. So by, for example, going into the different one-handed drills or the no reference drills that we use, the brain becomes extremely sensitive to the impropriety of using muscle in the downswing. And as soon as you start to feel what muscle groups are firing that shouldn't be firing, it's easy to eliminate those things. The key to hitting a golf ball without effort is at the top of the backswing. As the weight moves back into the left side, it has to go just enough against the left leg in a right-handed player to deflect the body backwards to an off-balance position. It's just like if you watch a rotary-style place kicker, they'll land on the front foot and then they deflect to an off balance position, you'll see that they're leaning away from the football, at an angle of about 30 degrees. And that's to keep the weight of their leg as it swings in front of them from pulling them off balance. If you watch a hammer thrower, for example, who is swinging a 40-pound set of arms plus a 16-pound ball and cable in front of him, as he swings that much weight around one side of his body as he's turning, he has to lean backwards to almost a 40-degree angle, leaning backwards to keep the arms in the hammer from pulling him off balance toward his toes. Anytime you see a golfer who swings and comes over the top, that's an individual who starts the downswing from a balanced position. And if they start down from a balanced position, as soon as they start the downswing, the weight of their own arms and club will pull them right onto their toes, and they'll either pull the ball or slice it if the club face is open. So the golf swing is just a microcosm of a hammer throw, and then a little bit steeper plane. So the counterfall is very difficult to see in a golfer because we're only swinging a 1-pound tool coming through, plus the plane of the swing is pretty steep since the ball's sitting on the ground. But there is a counterfall involved in every sport where rotary motion is involved. Like you see a tennis player, when he goes to serve, he'll throw the ball up and lean over backwards, and that back lean is what frees the core mass to provide the power for the swing. It's just exactly like I don't know if you've ever tried to move a 55-gallon drum full of liquid. Have you ever tried to do that before?
I've tried to, yes, I have.
All right, well, a 55-gallon drum full of liquid would weigh over 500 pounds. So if it's standing straight up and down, you can barely budge it. But if you take the thing and tip it to where you put the center of mass over an edge, then the barrel is very easy to roll. In fact, I show on my tapes on my DVD where we take a 5-year-old boy that weighs 38 pounds, and once we tip the barrel for him and get the center of mass over an edge, that small child can very easily roll that 500-pound barrel. And the body works identically to that in the golf swing. So when you go to the finish of your backswing and land back on your front foot, you land just enough against that front leg to deflect the weight flow into the counterfall, and then when your body goes right to the point to where you're about to fall down backwards, you just drop your arms, and the core rotation slings your arms. There's a little recipe to it that once you feel how it works, it'll work for you as long as you live. In fact, people that know how to hit it like that keep the majority of their distance for as long as they play golf. Whereas if you're hitting it with your muscles, you're going to see a rapid deterioration or diminishment in your distance as you age.
That's interesting. Now, back when I first bought actually they weren't DVDs, they were video cassettes in the
Right.
late 90s, early mid-90s. Gravity golf was all the craze, particularly on the senior tour. We had Trevino, Chichi Rodriguez, Rocky Thompson, and the like, and they were singing the praises. What happened? Why did the movement die down?
Well,
that's the vibe I get.
Reason that at that time I was out there working with a bunch of players. At the end of '96, I moved up to Arkansas and built my own teaching center, and I basically, moved very far out of the mainstream of golf. So I was way away from any of the tours and not going to the tournaments anymore.
Oh, okay.
We left there last year and moved back into Florida, so I'm starting to reconnect with a number of the playing professionals. But most of my guys, my contemporaries, mostly are past the playing age now. Most of them don't play actively on the tour anymore. I'm still doing swing research and still teaching very actively. I just have not been following or teaching a bunch of tour players in the last 15 years. Gravity golf, it has not died out. The modern golf swing is becoming more prevalent than ever, but people are still learning it through mimicking the swing of other players instead of by understanding exactly how the thing functions. I'm currently writing another book, which will be a very definitive work on the gravity swing and how it works. But I'm doing some things to kind of get back into the mainstream of instruction. I've taken myself away from, it wasn't a good career move to move up there, but it was something that I did because I wanted my children to grow up, in the country and be near Lake Washita. And I moved up there because all my family lives up there. It was kind of a personal move to go back there. I was much more active in the golf scene when I was in Florida.
You were always perennial top 100, so your contemporaries were aware of your skill and knowledge. Let's uh let's talk about a couple of players that I'd like you to analyze or perhaps define their swings. Let's start with Bobby Jones.
Bobby Jones was a player. Now, if he were playing today, he would be a pure gravity player. Now, players of his era, when they played, had a tremendous amount of torque in the hickory shaft. Uh, Modern day shafts only torque between about 2 and 5 degrees, whereas hickory shafts would torque up to as much as 15 degrees. In other words, you could take the club head in one hand and the grip in the other, and and turn the head and the grip in opposite directions and twist that shaft to a great degree. That caused players back in that era to have to flip the blade coming through impact. So Bobby was a very, very smooth swinging, but very active with his hands coming into impact. And that made the golf swing even more spooky back then because it was easy to over-rotate the blade and hook it. Modern day players don't have to deal with all that torque, and they have much more passive hands, so they can hit it with their body mass with their hands quiet. So he was a gravity player with very active hands is what he was. They call that a centrifugal flip player, where he would take his hands and flip them through impact. Great, fabulous player. I mean, there's about 5 different ways you can power a golf swing that I'm aware of, and all of them have produced great players. But the gravity swing in its pure form is the only style out of that 5 that does not send some degree of energy back into the body during the execution of the swing.
So you would say that the gravity swing is the most efficient out of them all.
Absolutely. And if you watch players like Ernie Els and Freddie and Loreno Ochoa and Annika and people like that who have a feel for doing it, you see very, very little effort. You can watch this kid that won the British Open here a couple of weeks ago, this Louis Oosthuizen. I mean, he's got a gorgeous gravity swing, hits the ball exceptionally long for his size, and uses very, very little effort to do it. And that's characteristic of the gravity swing. It's a very easy looking move. And certainly the way people want to swing the golf club as they get older, and it's about the only way women can swing the golf club and have any appreciable power, because they don't have a guy can go out there and hit it hard with his shoulders and arms, where a woman has to have better technique. She wants to move it with her, with her body mass and not with her muscles.
Okay. What about Byron Nelson?
Byron he was a gravity player and one of the first great gravity players to my knowledge. I mean, when Byron was on, nobody could beat him. I mean, he could just shoot the grass off the golf course.
I believe he didn't get enough credit for his, he was
Well,
overshadowed.
he didn't play. He didn't play that long. They weren't playing for much money back then, and he was in love with that farm he had that he bought in Fort Worth, and he went out there and camped himself in the middle of his farm and pretty much stayed there.
What about Sam Snead?
Sam was he was kind of a flipper like Jones. He had active hands. Now he had a beautiful swing, just a gorgeous golf swing, and he was super coordinated. I got the opportunity to work on Sam when he was, about 80 years old. And, he still could move. He could still, when he was 80, kick the top of a door jamb.
Wow.
So he had a great athletic body and, and a beautiful swing. But all of those players that started off playing with hickory shafts, had pretty active hands. Now, some of them kind of grew out of it, like Bruce Crampton started off that way. And he got his hands to quieten down toward the end of his career. But, if you remember the shot where he knocked an 8-iron into the pond at Colonial, the lake's named after him there. When you hook an 8-iron that far, your hands are pretty busy.
Wow. Now, I've had a debate on my blog, my own personal debate regarding Ben Hogan. I believe that there were two Hogans. There was a Hogan pre-accident and a Hogan post-accident. I like to call one Power Golf Hogan, and the second guy is Five Lessons Hogan. Do you see a difference between the two swings, the two moves? One was nice, long and loose.
There's definitely a difference between them. The Power Golf Hogan, if you looked at the golf club at the top of his backswing, he had the golf club pointed at 430 in the backswing, looking at him like a clock, which is about where John Daly takes it in the backswing. When that golf club goes down that far, it's very easy to create a pitch out at the top of the backswing. When Hogan first came on the tour with that golf swing, he could hardly break 80. He used to hit it all over the place, and he knew the club shouldn't go down that far. But when he set out to fix that problem, the way he did it, now that's caused the club goes over that far because of an improper origin of takeaway. He took it back with his hands instead of throwing it back with his core muscles. When the hands take it back, it starts that club into a very early cock in the backswing. And when he set out to fix that problem, instead of changing his origin of his takeaway to his core, the way he fixed it was he clamped his right elbow to his side, figuring that if the right elbow stayed on the side throughout the backswing, the club couldn't drop down that far. It would basically hit him in the back before it did. But he essentially made the elbow the shoulder.
Wow.
If you follow what I'm saying, because he never let that arm. You can imagine a major league pitcher trying to throw, holding his elbow on his side. And that's what Hogan...
He shortened his radius. I would say he shortened his radius.
He had a very small arc size. And that's why Hogan had the great weight transfer and the counterfall like a pure gravity player, was because his arc size was so diminished by keeping his elbow to his side. Coming into impact, he had to add a racquetball type lash with the right forearm. And it it takes a great set of hands and wrists and forearms to be able to do that. A woman trying to play like that can hardly hit it out of her shadow. She doesn't have a strong enough set of hands and wrists and forearms to add that extra power coming in there. Hogan made the comment that he wished he had 3 right arms because he was using that arm for power coming into the ball. Now, gravity players, let their arms go much higher, and they develop more speed in the downswing just from the acceleration formula of gravity, and the arms and clubs starting from a higher, spot. So
Okay.
Modern day players don't have to put that fire in the right arm coming into impact. Now Hogan was a fabulous, fabulous player. I'm not criticizing Hogan as a player, but you would never ever take a woman out there and try to teach her to play from that elbow position. And I don't teach anybody to play from there. A golf ball is much, much easier to hit than trying to hit it like Ben Hogan. I mean, Ben Hogan lived on the practice tee to make that golf swing work, and he was dadgum good at it. I mean, he stayed out there until he made it work, and he made it work better than most of the people he was playing against. But the modern golf swing does not take near the effort. I mean, if you watch films of Hogan and put them up beside Freddie, you can see Hogan's working 3 times as hard as Freddie.
Okay, what about Jack Nicklaus?
Jack's what I use basically as a model for the gravity swing. He just, he set up to it, heaved it up there and just let his arms fall, and the counterfall and the turn just slung it. I mean, when he came along, nobody had ever seen anything like him. Bobby Jones said about him, this guy, plays a game with which I'm not familiar. And he basically stumbled across that swing and how to do it. Where I've worked on him a half a dozen times, and I've never had the opportunity to, or never taken the opportunity to ask him, where he got his concept of swinging from. Could have been from Byron. I don't really know. But he's the, Jack. Jack is one of the poster children for gravity golf.
Yes.
And most people call his swing the modern golf swing, but there's 3 places in that swing where gravity helps it. And that's one of the reasons why it works so efficiently. He's not doing all the work. Gravity's doing a lot of it. So gravity returns his weight from the back foot to the front foot at the completion of the backswing. Gravity starts the arms down, and momentum and gravity carry him into the counterfall. So he has that thing working at a highly efficient level. And that, he sent so little energy back into his body is, the main reason he could play under such tremendous pressure. Plus, on top of that, he was a fabulous putter.
Yes, he was. Have you been watching the tour lately? What are your thoughts on Tiger Woods?
Well, Tiger has got some definite swing issues right now. He's got a power leak in his right shoulder, where he's got slack in the shoulder when he goes back, and you can see him at the top of his backswing make a very, very strong muscular impulse to try to cover up that leak. And he essentially is underplaying when he takes it back, and he knows that. And he started off swinging the golf club real well today, and then in about the middle of the round, he made a few really suspect-looking swings, and then he started swinging a little better at the end. But Tiger is basically a person that has got the most awesome talent on the planet, but he is not a person that totally understands his golf swing. And if he did, I mean, shoot, everybody else could stay at the house. I mean, if you watch him swing, you could just, if you've got films of it, just put him beside Freddie. He and Freddie hit the ball about the same distance, and Tiger's using twice the effort. So that tells you, when you see that kind of discrepancy in effort between players, it's telling you that that something in that downswing is stopping the power. That power can serve to increase speed, and if you tighten the arms coming down, it simultaneously decreases it. So he's essentially speeding the swing up and slowing it down with the same movement. This is why great athletes don't easily make inroads into golf from other sports. See, these guys are all covered up with muscle, and their instinct when they get over a golf ball is to use that muscle on the golf ball. Well, they don't realize that when they tighten their arms, they're putting an instantaneous stop on their core rotation coming through. If you watch most people on stop action videotape, the last 3 frames prior to, if you watch them in sequence photos, the last 3 frames prior to impact, you'll see their arms and shoulders and golf club moving, and everything from the armpits down is momentarily stopped. Because the flex from the arms coming down stops the core from turning. The human body has great power doing the squat with weights. It has very limited power rotationally because there aren't any transverse muscles from the waist down. They're all longitudinal. So the body is designed to go up and down. It's not designed to turn with power. And if you start down with a tension increase, you put a momentary stop on your turn, you'll hit it with your shoulders and arms, and then post-impact, your body will turn. Doesn't do any good to turn the mass after the ball's gone. If you're going to hit it properly, you should have every available pound rotating at the instant you touch that ball. Any of your pounds that are not turning at the instant you touch the ball are not having an effect on it. That's why some people swing if you watch Freddie, his body turns in every frame.
It seems like using your system, people develop quite a bit of clubhead lag. I'm watching.
They do. Yeah, they do.
I'm thinking about 3 players I have in mind that might just fit your model perfectly. The golfing machine, we call what you're doing float loading. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Homer Kelly's work, but Miller Barber, Dan
Miller
Pole.
Barber's a perfect example.
Dan Pole.
Who?
Don Pole. Yes.
Don who?
Don Pole or Dan Pole. Remember him in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s?
Dan Pole, yeah.
And today probably Lucas Glover.
Lucas Glover's a gravity player. Absolutely.
Yes. They saw the club back up.
Rory McIlroy is a gravity player.
Now, has your body of work been reviewed by scientists and the like? And what is their take on it?
Well, it has. In fact, the gravity system was in '95 was under consideration for a Nobel Prize in physiology, but it never. There was nobody. When they tried to get that done, it has to be, anytime anybody gets nominated for a Nobel Prize, they have to be. It has to be done by a Nobel laureate, which finding one that plays golf is pretty hard.
Yeah.
One of the problems with the gravity swing, with the golf swing in general, and this is why golf has been such a development of swing mechanics has been such a confusing thing for people for 500 years. When you look at how long this game has been played and how little is known about it, It's remarkable because of the fact that, and that is because of the fact that it is so multidisciplined. There's a tremendous amount of physics involved. There is a lot of physiology involved. There is a boatload of geometry involved, and there's a lot of psychology involved. You can find people that know a lot about each of those subjects, but it's hard to find anybody that knows much about all of them. I know enough about each area to be dangerous, but I have also got over 60 years of golf experience. So I've been, my father was a clinical pathologist, and I started helping him do autopsies when I was 12 years old. So I've got a fairly good understanding of the body. And the number one thing is the two things that people don't understand about the human body is the fact that it's extremely weak pivotally, nor do they have a feel for how heavy their arms are. If you ask 100 people how heavy their arms are, 90% of them are going to underguess the weight. When you swing both your arms and a golf club around one side of your body, it's like putting all your clothes on one side of your washing machine.
Wow.
So if you don't have a counterfall in there, you'll be out of balance as soon as you start down. People are obsessed with having balance in the golf swing. What you're looking for is not balance. It's a state of rotary equilibrium. So if you have it's just like if you watch a crane, a construction crane, that has a big long arm coming out of one side of it.
You have to counterweight it.
They have to counterweight it, and that's exactly what the counterfall does at the start of the downswing to create the state of equilibrium as the arms and clubs swing around one side of the body. And if you're not deep enough in that counterfall and those arms are moving too fast, they'll pull you out of plane before you can blink.
It said that the club head could generate approximately 100 pounds of force centrifugally. So yes, I think it's important to try to counterweight that, keep you from, drag you around like a rag doll if you're not careful.
That's right. I think you sound like you understand it. So.
Yeah. How quickly do you think somebody can become a scratch player using the gravity system?
You can take a total beginner and have them train within a period of about a year if they're working on it pretty aggressively. But a person could easily train themselves if they were practicing 2 or 3 hours a week. They could train themselves down to being a low single-digit handicap in a couple of 3 years. If you were training, working at it, 4 or 5 hours a day, you could do it in a year. If you were practicing correctly. Now, there's people that go out there and hit golf balls all day long, every day, but if they're practicing wrong, they won't get 5 minutes of value for an hour of invested time. There's not any game that I can think of, where, besides bungee jumping, where it's more important to do it right. So if you want to get a lot of value out of your time, it's important that you practice perfectly when you're practicing golf, and that's a function of understanding how to do that. If you practice using your muscles on it, then you're never going to hit it like Freddie using muscles, because that's not what he does to it. He's doing something entirely different. There's a little Mexican toy called a bilero. I don't know if you've ever seen one of them. It's like a fat, kind of like a fat pencil that has a string tied to it, and the string's about 1 foot long, and at the end of the string there's a wooden ball with a hole underneath it. and you flip that thing up in the air, and the ball turns over and lands on the peg. You ever seen one of those?
Oh, I haven't.
Well,
No, I've never
it's
seen
an
one.
well, it's an insidious little toy, and any kid in Mexico can do it behind his back, but an American who had never seen one of the things could pick one of them up and mess with it all day long and never get it to land on the peg once. The, the whole thing happens right at the very instant you set it into motion. So if you don't heave it correctly, the ball won't tumble, it won't turn over, or it'll run past the peg when you heave it up in the air. If you do it right, it'll go up and almost stall and turn over, and it'll fall right on the peg. Well, every kid down there knows exactly how to do it because they've messed with it long enough. The golf swing works just like that toy works. And if you understand how to heave it and make it change directions so that you're not in a tug of war with a 3.5 foot pry bar, then you can learn to handle it. The people who know how to heave it so that it changes directions without effort are the ones that swing it correctly. If you want to see the golf club change directions properly, watch Furyk swing it, because it's so exaggerated in him, you can really see it. A proper change of direction has a loop in it. The club head doesn't change directions with a sharp change of direction like the point of a new moon. The club head moves through a loop like a comma.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on video analysis?
The things that happen in the golf swing that really are important, you can't see them on tape. They become visually undetectable. Now you can see what you can see on tape is you can see areas where the club is out of the plane or where dynamics are lost in the swing. The problem is that when you're watching tape, you're seeing things. If something is wrong, in 9 out of 10 cases, you're seeing something that is a symptomatic issue. In other words, it's not the root source of the problem. It could be 3 or 4 dominoes down the line from where the problem actually occurred. So the key to learning how to hit a golf ball properly is fixing the issue at the source. You follow what I'm saying? You need to fix the root problem that is precipitating all the downline positions that are off. And the problem with studying too many tapes and stuff like that is you start seeing the golf swing as a bunch of different positions, where the swing is a dynamic mechanism. It's like learning to do a triple axel on ice skates. Well, you can't stop in the middle of a triple axel to check things. You have to learn to make the swing as a dynamic whole mechanism, and that's what the different drills that I've developed do. They teach you how to move as a dynamic with proper dynamics, where the whole thing is being orchestrated by your subconscious mind, the part of your brain that taught you how to walk and ride a bicycle. I mean, for a 1-year-old to learn to walk is a very, very complex motor skill, and yet little children can learn to do it without DVDs, without books, without anybody telling them what to do. The instinct to stop toddling and to start walking efficiently is something that comes with our internal software. And the way I teach golf, we're adapting the same part of your brain that this is what the science people were so excited about when I've done some clinics for the American Society of Neuroscience. They could see that through these drills, we were triggering the same part of the brain that taught us how to walk and ride a bicycle to the adaptation of learning perfect swing mechanics. So they've known for a long time that we have a huge computer in the back of our heads that can teach us to do amazing things. What they haven't known how to do is turn it on at will. And the drills create various threats to the body. Anytime the body is threatened in any way, the big computer in the back of our head overrides the part of our cerebrum, the part of our brain we think with, and by doing that, they could see that we are able to externally manipulate the hierarchy within the brain, which is cool to be able to do that, because that part of our brain is much more capable of orchestrating complex motor functions than the part of our brain we think with. I mean, we're trying to move the majority of 640 muscles and 211 bones in perfect harmony to hit a golf ball like Freddie. And if you're trying to think about what all of those parts are doing, you're going to drive yourself crazy. But these drills trigger a part of the brain that is capable of training all those parts simultaneously. That's why people can learn so fast when they're doing these drills. Everything is done by feel.
That's the best way to do it. My teacher, Greg McCann, talks to me about that all the time. Try to let the motion dictate the mechanics. And I can't help but agree more. Once you get into motion, it's a dynamic process, and it works well. What are your thoughts on alignment?
And one thing, alignment is the most confusing thing in golf to people, because alignment is a function of the ball's relativity to the leading axis, the leg you're turning around, which is the left leg in a right-handed player. It's also a function of grip, of ball position. It's a function of sequencing of movement and a function of grip. So I could stand in an alignment where I was lined up right at the flag, and by changing my power application, even without changing the grip, just by changing my power application, I could hit the ball through about 70-degree span very easily. So alignment is something that nobody can make sense out of until they learn to sequence themselves consistently. And then once you have a feel for consistency and power application, then alignment becomes very, very simple. But if you see a person lay a club down on the ground to check their alignment, the first thing you know about that person is they don't have a clue what they're doing. I don't care who it is.
So what are your thoughts on? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Lee.
I was through there.
Okay.
It's something that alignment's something that drives people nuts, but once you learn how to move sequentially correct, then learning to point the gun is very simple.
That sounds like a good metaphor. What are your thoughts on the new technologies out there, such as launch monitors? They have TrackMan, they have Flight Scope. Now there's an ongoing debate as to whether the ball flight laws, the original ball flight laws that were in the PGA manual, are correct or not, and whether the club face, now what they're finding is that the direction the club face is pointing controls anywhere from 75 to 80 for 90% of the initial direction of the ball, whereas previously they thought that the path controlled the initial direction of the ball. What are your thoughts on all this stuff and the new technologies that are coming around? Is it going to change anything, or are we going to have any new discoveries come forward?
You sound like you like you know more about that than I do, but what I followed some of that, and the launch monitors are fascinating, and the stuff that they tell you, you can learn some interesting things about shafts and golf balls and launch angles and stuff like that that can help you with your distance if you optimize those things. But all of them are in a small fraction of 10% of the importance of uh, knowing how to move is more than 90% of golf. Lee Trevino could take a golf club from the 18th century. Take one club. You could give him a fairway wood from the 18th century. He could take that one club and go out and play 95% of the people playing golf and beat them with that one golf club that's 300 years old.
Wow.
And that's because he knows how to move. And if you don't believe that, just take your wallet and go check it out.
I have no doubt he can do it. In fact, I read about where him and Seve were playing each other with one club matches with 5-iron in Europe. Like they both did fairly well.
That's right. Well, if you've ever seen him hit a golf ball with a Dr. Pepper bottle on the stick, he could knock the snot out of it doing that.
Okay, so what can we expect? Some more material from you, perhaps. You said you were revamping, writing a new book.
Well, I'm writing another book, which I believe will be the last one I write. I'm doing a book on how to teach golf to your kids, and I'm trying to get that finished now. But I've got two more projects. I also want to do I want to do a DVD on the short game, because some of our short game, the stuff we do on short game and putting, is really fascinating. I'm a big proponent of putting on the arc because the physics of it are so superior. People that putt like Bobby Locke and Ben Crenshaw and Tiger, when he's stroking it correctly, he's made some real suspicious looking putts in the last few weeks that I have never seen him make. I've seen him make a number of linear strokes, which is very, very unusual for him to do. I mean, he has just had the most incredible putting stroke for the longest time, but he started doing some kind of funky things with a putter where he's chasing the flight line, and you're seeing him miss putts right now that historically I've never seen him miss.
I'm sorry, Mr.
But that's I want to do some stuff on the short game and continue to try to get my I would like to I'd like to come up to some of the big schools and get with some of the different department heads and try to get my my science more validated from the academic community, because we are really doing things now that where we can not only teach people better mechanics, we can teach them in a very, very short period of time compared to what has historically been the case for people learning this game. The world is changing. They need quicker ways to learn things now. And of course, the computer has gotten everybody into that mindset. But golf doesn't seem to fit the patience level of most kids, and nowadays, and they need a much, much faster way to learn this game, and that's exactly what we have through the development of these various drills. In fact, one of the most interesting things about gravity golf is that some of the most effective schools I've ever done have been with foreigners, people from Japan and South America that I could not verbalize with, but I just put them in the drills and let them do the drills on kind of a monkey see, monkey do basis, and they do fantastically. Just when they do the drills, they are teaching themselves through their own sensitivity for self-preservation. So when you start doing the drills and you figure out how to keep the drill from threatening your system, you'll develop perfect swing mechanics as a byproduct of doing that.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And now if somebody wanted to take lessons with you or experience your tutelage, where could we find you?
I teach at Black Diamond Ranch in Lecanto, Florida. It's north of Tampa, about an hour and 15 minutes. Absolutely spectacular golf course. It's been off and on one of the number one courses in the state of Florida. Beautiful place. Has a great website.
Okay, so
and that's where I am.
Okay, you're not traveling the country these days. You're simply hanging out down there.
I travel, sometimes in the summertime I travel and do some different schools. In fact, Lee Trevino and I are going to teach a school at the Greenbrier next month.
Wow, okay.
The two of us together.
Great.
In fact, we taught one year before last at Cherokee Country Club in Atlanta, and Lee is a big proponent of gravity golf. I've worked on him off and on for the last 15 years because he's one of the poster children for gravity golf. He's exactly, the stuff I teach is exactly what he does.
That's interesting. What about Chichi Rodriguez? He was a big gravity golf guy.
Chichi's a gravity player too. I worked on Chichi for years. Chichi really loves my stuff, and he's so, he always kind of looked off balance on the follow through because he was so light. He had to make an excessively deep counterfall at the speed at which he swung. So when you watched him, on the follow through, it looked like he was falling all over himself. But he was purely rotary in his delivery, and that's why he could hit it so far, being his size.
Okay, Mr. Lee, so that's all we have for you today. Unless you want to make some closing statements or you have anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think we've pretty well covered things. My message is that, people should realize that there is new science out there, whereby they can learn this game in short order. Not only learn it quickly, they can learn it with absolute correctness. And that's one of the goals that I've always tried to achieve with my science, is to put it in front of academic people, and give them the opportunity to shoot holes in it. And I have never had one person tell me that the science behind the gravity golf concepts were not absolutely rock solid.
I tend to agree with you. I mean, I'm a big fan of yours, but gravity's there, and we need to harness the forces around us and not work against them, I believe. In other words,
you know how to use gravity to help you. It'll teach you how to swing it like Freddie if you understand what he's doing. That's the most important message that I could send to anybody, is that the world doesn't realize that there is a trick to hitting it like Freddie. And if you understand how that thing works, there's a recipe to it that's just as defined as baking a batch of cookies. And if you understand the relationship between the heave and the arm drop and the counterfall, the gravity swing is not a mechanism that you make work. It's something that you enable.
That's exactly the way I've been taught. Okay, Mr. Lee. Well, it's been great. I really want to thank you for giving us your time, spending time with us, describing your system, and us being able to learn from you and learn and take a little chunk of your wisdom with us tonight.
Well,
You've been a
you are
gentleman
very
and a
welcome.
scholar.
I've enjoyed talking with you. And